Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelly Stevens.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Private Practice Pro podcast. I have Stassi Betcher here, and I love your last name. I just want to keep saying it over and over again. And we're going to today talk about social media, podcasting, how to get started, like what the beginning steps are of just putting yourself out there in social media world as a therapist. And I'm going to have Stassi, I'm going to have you introduce yourself first and just tell us who you are, where your practice is at, all of that.
Great. Hi, I'm Stassi. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm a mental health therapist in Portland, Oregon, and I'm an international women's wellness coach and have clients all over the world. I focus specifically on women. I'm a feminist therapist and take a feminist lens. So I look at systems and how we grew up that give feedback throughout our lives to show up as mental health problems or behavior problems like perfectionism, overfunctioning, doing it all, and why we're doing that. What's the root cause of that? And taking that underlying issue and rejecting those like thought patterns that aren't super helpful.
I love it. So you're in Portland. So you do telehealth and in person or just in person?
Just telehealth. I'm just doing telehealth.
Ooh, nice.
A brand new mom. I have a 9-month-old baby. And so at first when I was pregnant, COVID was happening. So I didn't want to revamp in person. And then now it's just so convenient that I get to hang out with my baby and then jump on and do my job and then go back and do nighttime and bedtime stuff. So I have no future plans of going back to in person, honestly.
Isn't it? I'm the same way. I gave up my office right after COVID, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
And honestly, it's like a weird marketing campaign for that being like just in graduate school and stuff, right? Like the negative connotation telehealth had, and then COVID, we all just kind of had to do it. And how bad, there's not a difference for me. I don't think there's a truly difference in the rapport and the building that you have. No.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's a difference either. Like I work with a lot of young adults and teenagers. And if anything, I feel like I get more of a view into their life, because they're sitting in like their messy bedroom or I feel like, yeah. But the only thing I would say is like, I love that when they're in the office, they're like for my clients that are younger adults, like sometimes they'll get a little distracted. But other than that, like I'll see them like look off and their like phone is like outside the camera view,
Each who like loves to have the TV on behind, and then I'll see like light flashing on her face, and you're like,
yeah, you're like, I know what you're doing. I gotta admit, if I was a teenager right now, I probably would do that too.
Yeah, I have the TV on in my house now that I have a baby, I don't. But before that, I lived with the TV on all the time, so I like relate, and also no, not now.
Oh my gosh, same. I was I'm going to go on a tangent for a second, but I was a huge West Wing fan. I used to love watching West Wing. So random. I've watched the whole thing through 6 times.
Yeah.
And I know, ridiculous. And I used to just have West Wing on prior to having kids all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh.
I mean, that's
anyway.
with Schitt's Creek, The Crown,
Both
Mad Men. I remember I watch shows over and over again. That's like my jam. I don't know.
Me too. Oh my gosh. My husband and I will watch the same show a million times. And people come to visit us and they're like, weren't you guys watching this like last time we visited? And we're like, yeah, we just didn't stop.
I really want Netflix. This is like, we're really going on a tangent, but I really want Netflix to do the Spotify thing, which is like your like favorite art.
Oh, your playlist? Yeah,
I want Netflix to do it because it would tell me how many hours I've spent on The Good Place and Schitt's Creek. Like how much have
I love The Good Place. Every show. I think when this podcast episode comes out, let's make a list. Let's make a little playlist for people of our favorite shows for the fun of it.
Do that because
okay, we're going to do it.
Destroy some shows.
So anyone who's listening to this, in the show notes, there will be a list of Stassi and my favorite shows for what we're watching right now. Best shows to binge. Okay, so I don't know. I don't have a good segue here, but we're just going to segue because otherwise we're going to talk about shows for 2 hours. So today, first of all, I was on your podcast last week in real time, in podcast time, who knows when that was. And we got to talking about putting yourself out there as a therapist on social media, building income outside of one-to-one therapy. And we off camera, where you had all these questions and things you were looking forward to and your goals. And I said, let's just do this on the podcast. Like, let's kind of have a mini coaching session where we talk about a lot of this. And I give you my thoughts and opinions and we can kind of brainstorm together. So let's get into that.
I'm so excited because like I just realized I didn't bring a pen and paper as I rushed up here from walking my dog. And like it's gonna be recorded. I just get to listen to this.
We could just listen. We could just binge our own episode.
Yeah, I'm going to. It's gonna live forever. It's wonderful. Okay, so I'll give a background on like my professional history for a hot second.
Perfect.
Internship. I worked in a high school. I was hospitalizing teenagers on average 3 times a week for suicidal plans or actual attempts for 3 years straight. It was really stressful. One of the reasons I watch shows on repeat is because it's safe and predictable. And then it was so hard. And in February of 2020, I said I got my hours to the dot, and I said I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm out, and I'm moving back home to Oregon. I was in California at the time, and then
so you did your hours in California.
Yep.
Nice. Where in California?
The Bay.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. And we talked about this on my podcast, but like I was the only therapist I knew who was getting paid. And I don't know if this is a California state culture thing or definitely the Bay culture thing. I was the only therapist I knew intern who was getting paid, and I was getting paid $15,000 a year. My rent was $2,600 a month. I was making $2,000 a month. And couldn't afford to live. And so one of the reasons I love your social media account is because it validates everything I've ever experienced, what most therapists have ever experienced. And I built my private practice knowing that this was a broken system and I wasn't going to do that. And so I started from scratch with like charging way more than other therapists were charging, building it slowly. So I had that. And even with that, the problem or the thing that I've noticed, even becoming pregnant, all of a sudden I realized my financial income is capped. I don't want to have more than 14 clients a week ever. And really the comfortable window for me is 9 to 12. I like that most. I'll go up to 14. And that's my boundary for myself because money's addicting. So I could go up to 17. Who cares? It's an hour, right? And so I make sure I have a really hard boundary. But then your income is capped. So last year I made a course for intentional living that was fucking rad and so cool, and everybody who went loved it, and I made no money on it. I actually have debt from it from doing Instagram ads, hiring a marketing company to do that. And so I love the content that's in it, but it didn't pay off in the way that I needed it to. And the thing is like you need to be present on social media. You need to have a loyal following to be able to even have people trust what you're doing. And I had a small loyal following, but who the loyal followers are other entrepreneurs who just like my business. They're not wanting to spend money on me, right? They're not my ideal people on my niche. And so once I had a baby, I thought, I don't care about social media. Like I already have a job. I'm already a therapist. Like I'm taking that off my plate right now, which was a very wise move as your mom. But now like the itch is coming back. I'm paying attention to it. I'd like to find that again. I've started a podcast in the 9 months postpartum.
You couldn't stay away.
Yeah, I can't stay away.
I have that problem.
It's a passion project. We're doing it for fun. You coming on our podcast, which was very generous of you, has given us
so fun.
Words, but I don't have the systems to even I was like, I know I need to introduce myself. We have 70 new followers this week just from you being on, and I need to say hello. And like the amount of time and energy it takes for me to even like create that carousel of like, this is me, this is Emily, like, hello. It took like 2 hours yesterday to do. And then I still haven't.
Yeah, we got to speed that shit up, man. It should not take 2 hours.
I'm great as my own personal Instagram. Like I can share my baby all day and with my own personal family and friends and no big deal. But the actual like aesthetic and the reels, like it's time consuming, and I already fucking have a job. I'm already sorry.
Don't we all? Yeah.
Like cussing, I'm gonna cuss.
This podcast, like there is no filter.
Yeah.
I have such a sailor's mouth, and I told myself that in motherhood I would ditch it, and I have it. And my son is 2.5, and he hasn't said a cuss word, which probably I'm going to end up with a sailor mouth Sailor mouth might be the wrong word. Is that like a bad thing to say?
I don't know, but I totally get what you're saying. I don't know if that's offensive. I can't imagine.
If this is offensive to anyone, feel free to comment on the episode and tell me, because I probably shouldn't have done that. I have a foul mouth. Okay. And, but I think I cuss so much that my son doesn't even realize it's a bad word. Okay, Stassi. So we're going to have to start somewhere on this. And so where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about the course? I feel like we should talk about the course and start from there. So, and anyone who's listening to this is hearing this in real time. Like, we haven't scripted it. We're having a conversation about this. So, you're going to hear all sorts of our thinking about how we would strategize about this. So, okay. So you launched this course, and did you film it? Did you teach it live? How did that component go?
It was on Zoom and recorded. So what the course was, it's called the Intentional Living Workshop. And what it was marketing to high achieving, confident women who are doing too much, who climb their ladders in their careers, who check their emails at 11:30 p.m. and wake up at 4 to check them again. This is my market of people of, hey, we gotta have some boundaries and check back in. Is this the life you really want? Let's pay attention.
Right.
So I recorded it. I did it live with the marketing company who I'm obsessed with and love. I'm a big fan of who I worked with. They helped me build this and do it. And so they said, record it so that you can then sell it while you're on maternity leave and make income off of that, which I didn't end up doing because I didn't have the system. As a solo person, you just don't have the system in place to be able to get your hands there. I did several trades in the end. So the marketing company is actually a close friend at this point. So they did a trade with me on financial stuff with the course. And then my wedding videographer did a trade with me. And she just circled back a couple weeks ago and said, hey, I didn't forget. And I'd like to edit the course so that we can package it and sell it. And she's actually created step-by-step process of this is how we're going to advertise and do it. She's going to come up and film B-roll for me. But the moment she wrote me, the thought I had was, fuck, that means I have to get back on Instagram and start someone's handing me a package of shit to do. And I still have a lot of that's wonderful because that's all going to be taken care of. But I have to be present on Instagram as a person, as an expert before I can even start selling shit to people. And that was oh, fuck, that's what I'm going to have to say anyway. So that's
okay. So first of all, it doesn't have to be Instagram.
Great.
That's number one. Okay. So and let's come back to the back end of the course in a minute. But, one thing when I built my first course that I feel like I got a really good piece of advice, which was you need to have, I remember calling this marketing guy who was great. And he was like, call me back when you have 5,000 followers. And I was very disheartened because I was like, wait, I have this great product. Number one. And number two, I was like, that feels impossible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I took this guy's advice because I was like, this guy could have taken my money and created tons of ads for me, but he didn't. He told me to call him back, which in 6 months or whatever. And then I called him back and I built to 5,000 and I called him back and he was like, I didn't think you were going to do it. I kind of meant a little more than 5,000, maybe she had 10,000. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Let's get the ball rolling, And I actually didn't end up using him at all for marketing. And I did some coaching sessions with him. But all of that to say, one statistic that I hear a lot when it comes to online course sales is you can estimate that 1% of your audience is going to buy from you. Yeah. So I don't think that that's always true. That's obviously just a rule of thumb. And when I first heard that, I thought oh my God. That's not that many people, but sure as shit. So we have been running my signature course for about 7.5 months now. And I don't know how many followers on Instagram right now. Today, 36,000 or something. And I have about 420 people in my course right now. So I am really close to that number.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, so with that said, and that's for an online course, right? There are coaching packages, there are ebooks, there's a lot of other things that you can do. But when I heard that, it made me think like, okay, the majority of people that are going to follow us on social media are there to consume free content.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I know for me, like I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I have 35,000 followers on Instagram. Shouldn't I sell 35,000 courses?
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, no. And we have a pretty high return.
Yeah.
And so I think that, yes, in order to sell a course, you need some way of marketing it. That could be social media. That could be through paid ads. That could be through other social media platforms. But there's got to be some way of marketing it. And so the first question I would have for you is like, do you want it to be Instagram? Do you like another platform better? I mean, you have a podcast now, obviously. So that's another way.
I mean, here's the thing is I'm really good at talking. Like you can, like I'm really good at talking. I am really bad at one, listening to myself talk, and two, being succinct about it. Right. So like it's a hard one. I love stories way more than I love creating a post. Like, I don't like reels because I have to like plan out what I'm going to say instead of just having a very strong and going, here it is. So that's one of my biggest struggles is I actually think I need a collaborator, whether that's I'm paying a coach to listen to me and work with what I'm trying to say or what I'm passionate about, or I have like a little like teeny bopper person who's like really alone, and is like, I'll help do this thing. Like, I don't know what it is, but like I know what I feel passionate about, but I can't put it on paper and go, here's the thing. And that's
you need someone to ask you the question
and pull it out, right? Like, very similar to therapy, but except for businessy.
So I would say like that part gets easier. And here's why. As your audience grows, they do that. And like, I know for me, like I get DMs every day of people asking questions. I literally screenshot those and I put them into an iPhone album in my phone that says like content ideas. And when I go to make a reel or I go to make a post, I'm literally answering someone's question. So that part gets easier.
I saw that from our conversation from the podcast last week.
Yeah.
You had like 4 reels over the weekend that was like, oh, that's inspired from our conversation. Oh, that's like, I complained about. Like, like you.
You asked me a lot of questions. So it made my life easier for a weekend. But the other thing is like, you could consider a longer format platform. You could consider YouTube or another podcast.
Good.
Because like YouTube is longer format. I mean, a lot of things are moving to shorter format, right? Like YouTube now has YouTube Shorts, which is like essentially Reels, which is essentially TikTok, right? But you don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be Instagram, So that's, I would say one thing to think about is like, do you actually want it to be Instagram? If you like talking, you like conversation, like you could have a YouTube channel where you do one coaching session a week with women, like where you let the skill shine itself.
Right. How would you do that? How would you get somebody like to sign up for being like, you know what I mean? Because like I think about graduate school and having to record somebody and record yourself. First of all, the stress of watching yourself as a therapist is one thing that's really rough. And 2, it took a lot for people to sign consent that they were going to be shown to other people, like to actually do their thing.
Yeah. Well, like anything else, I think you would start with friends and you'd keep it shorter format. Like what's one thing that, okay, so you work with high achieving perfectionistic women, right? So it's like, I'm assuming that that's you. And then I'm assuming that's a lot of your friends too. So if you were doing it on social media, maybe you would start by just the same way that you guys do with your podcast. Like you would find friends, even other therapists, and you'd ask them a question like, a YouTube video is short. So it could be like, what is one way that you set boundaries around your phone? And you would film just that, and some of it could be talking head videos where it's just you talking about one kind of pain point or concept, or some of them could be interviews. Just something to think about. I mean, I also think obviously I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram. That's my main platform, but I like to tell people it doesn't have to be Instagram.
Platform I know the best for sure. It's like thing I grown up on and an adult in. So yeah, like YouTube, I don't understand. It's perfect. Like literally, I use YouTube for like how to install this car seat in my car.
Me too.
Watch
Me
people
too.
on there. Like that's an insane thing that. Why are you spending your time on YouTube? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm a big YouTube junkie. I love YouTube. But okay, so let's go with Instagram. So for now, maybe like you'll dip your feet in YouTube later. So, or whatever. So the first thing I would probably do is sit down, and I tell people to do this all the time, is like sit down and like put a 10-minute timer in your phone and literally just start writing out like, what are your ideal people who are taking your course? What are their pain points? Like, what are the things that they struggle with on a minuscule level? So like the example that you gave earlier with like they're on their phone until 11 and they wake up and check their email at 6, like that's one thing. But my guess would be that like you could think of a lot of things that those people are struggling with.
What I think they are.
Yeah, tell me what you think they are.
So I think, and this is where I'm like, am I doing this right? You know, like so you go by yourself and like, yeah, maybe I did it. But then, you know, somebody is like, today you need to go more specific. You know, like I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, there's people pleasing involved in the emails, right? That they need to be dependent on. They're important. People can't figure this out themselves. So like there's a lot of anxiety behind checking the emails because it's their worth. And 2, they value their identity as an employee or a manager over like their relationships. So you know, they will sit on the couch doing work versus connecting with their partner in that version. But they also are like really passionate about juggling all the balls. So they do want to be a perfect daughter, friend. Again, I think their marriage to
wife,
their is the thing that goes last. They want to be a really great mother. And so they juggle all these things. And so they are typically pretty not fully dissatisfied in their partnership, but not happy in it either.
Right.
And that they're trying to juggle perfectionism in all these other ways and are very scared of letting people down.
Right. What about their age demographic? So like, are we talking like late 20s to mid 30s, mid 40s? Like, where do you feel like this person, and we work with women, so where do you feel like this woman is age wise?
Mid to late 20s, 26 to like 45. Is that big of is that too big?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think like a lot of what you're talking about here is like the convergence of professional life, marriage life, having kids, aging parents. What do you call it? Like in grad school, like the sandwich generation. You remember that? Yeah. So like you're talking about people who's wearing multiple hats. Okay. So like if you were thinking about their pain points, I mean, like, and you're thinking about creating content, like then you look at like, okay, like even more specific, like what does this person struggle with around the holidays?
I mean, my instinct goes, they say yes to too many things and they're burned out. So they say yes to too many parties. They plan their own. They're feeling obligated to bring something. They want to make sure that they're the perfect guest. So they're like rushing to buy wine, and like their anxiety is just like, they're like running on high. Their nervous system is all the time because they can't manage. They want to manage it all and they think they can. And instead it's just like a frenzy.
Yeah. And like, so like if you were to create a reel out of that, like immediately what pops to my mind is like wrapping paper. Like how many of us fucking perfectionists want to wrap things in a nice way?
Fucking love wrapping paper.
I know. I love wrapping paper too. I also feel like secretly, this is me. Like this client is me. Like
me too, 100%. I know this person well. I
do too. I know her. I think I am her. So, okay, so you would get to the nitty gritty of like, what's hard for them about the holidays? What's hard for this woman about sitting on the couch with her significant other? Not like, okay, so she's on the phone talking to her significant other about a show, but she's not really there because she's responding to an email. Like, how does she respond to her significant other? What is the misconnection that happens? Like, is she also burning dinner at the same time? You know, is she like, you get to the like really nitty gritty, because like what you want on social media, regardless of whatever platform you choose to use, is the people watching it to say like, oh, that's me.
Right.
So if you look at content creators, like you know that like when you see something like I love Elyse Meyers. I don't know if you follow her. She's like 2 million followers. And like so many of her reels, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. You know, I'll tag her stuff down below. But I think that like you would you want to get even more specific. Okay. So like this woman is like highly perfectionistic, right? So how does that show up at work? Like, what do you think that the main pain points are for your ideal course taker at work?
She never wants to drop the ball. And so highly, again, it's the nervous system piece where like she's highly pressured and just feels it all the time to make sure she's paying attention to everything she has. A to-do list that's running like crazy and still feels guilty at the end of the day that she didn't accomplish enough, even though she's done, whatever. It depends on her career point, right? Typically, I picture her already really high up and managing a lot of people, but there's also like that drive to become really high up, that like mindless goal that like I want to be up high, but we don't really.
I want to succeed. Right. So that captures like the bottom of your demographic age, which is like the 25, 26-year-olds, right? So that's like, they finish up at the office and they're running to a yoga class and they're like supposed to be calming down in the yoga class, but they're just thinking about work.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah. Or like, yeah.
In between meetings, they're jumping on a Peloton and running for 90, doing it.
Yes. Or like those fucking treadmill desks.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has a treadmill desk.
100%. Like that, like they're sick.
Yeah.
They like within 3 days are still doing a 90-minute ride. And you're like,
right.
They won't let their body rest. Like there's like a lot of
right.
I had a client say this week that was like, I see everyone else around me being able to accomplish this, and I just need to get to there. Like I just need to get to there. And I don't know why I can't do it. And it made me tear up in the session. So I was like, that's the essence of what we're talking about. Is like
totally
these women think if I can just willpower to there, whatever there is, this other goal, like that's. And I don't know how, like I can conceptualize this person, but I don't know how to like now have that person identify with me that I'm an expert and actually know what the fuck you're dealing with and how to deal with it. Like, I don't know how to put that on social media. I feel like I'm being really specific. Am I? Or am I still being vague?
No.
Okay.
No, I feel like you're being specific. I mean, I think you got to write it down like with a pen or like with your phone or whatever. Like every time, because like I'm imagining that you're seeing these people in your sessions. And so like when you finish up a session, even that wording of like, I just need to get there. Because then, and like your goal through social media as a therapist isn't necessarily to always be positioning yourself as, I see that this is a problem, here's the solution. Sometimes it's just enough to say what the problem is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you don't always have to fix it. Like it can also just be like, hey, are you a career woman who struggles to finish up at the office every day and make the transition home to motherhood or whatever? You'd say it in a different way. And then it would just be like, I see you, I get it. It doesn't have to be like, I see you, I get it, and here are 15 coping skills on how.
Nobody wants to hear the solutions, truly, because they're still buying into the successful piece that like, when I'm like, hey, your nervous system's on high and we actually need to take that down a bit. Like I have to do that in a session. I have to do that in a course because they don't fucking hear it. They don't care that their nervous system is on high. They want to achieve and they want to check the box. And they want to say, see, here's my gold star. I did it. And so it actually, I struggle with giving the solution because people zone out going, now you've gone too far and that's not safe anymore. I don't know. I don't want to deal with that.
Well, also the thing is, if you always give the solution, you also run the risk of there being no need for the course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so, and I've run into this problem. This is like a definite weakness for me. Like I like to give away free information and obviously I do that every single day on my platform. But there is certain information that you cannot condense into 90 seconds or even into a 10-minute YouTube video or a podcast. Like we're going to give away a lot of free information today on this podcast. Still, we're not going to cover everything it's going to take in order to run a whole podcast on your own or whatever. So it's the same thing with your content. It's like you want to tell people, okay, I see that this is the problem. Here's maybe part of the solution. You're also, there's so much more to this than just this chunk of information I'm giving you. And it's not that you're withholding. It's just that truly like there are some things that you can't convey only through social media.
Well, let's talk about your platform. Like, the truth is like, yeah, you validated, like, I'm charging this much money. Yep. We both agree on this. That's so.
Yeah.
The thing is if I want to charge, I've capped it where it felt comfortable. If I go over 200, now I feel really anxious about it. And the platform isn't helping me manage that anxiety. So I actually do need to pay you and do something so that I can do my individual work. So like, even when you give out the answers, it isn't individualized or specialized enough for me to feel typically. Totally. My experience all the time, your account validates it all the time. But if I wanted to actually do the work in advance, I need that support, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I always think of social media as you're showing them the what, and then ideally your products are getting into the nitty gritty of the how.
Okay.
It's like, what's the problem? Okay, the problem is this person is struggling. Your ideal client is overworked, unfulfilled in their relationships, feeling perfectionistic, never feeling good enough. You're going to give them like some information on how to kind of cope with the immediate struggle of that. It's like, okay, here are 3 things you can do to make that transition home from work to home easier. But the underpinning problem, obviously, you can't do on social media. It's like those feelings of worthlessness or helplessness or anything. Like, that's what you're going to cover in your course, or that's what you're going to cover in therapy.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there's nuance there. And I think it's like, if you're able to sit down and put that on paper, it's like, here are ideally 50 to 100 pain points that your ideal client is struggling with. So not just like they struggle with identity loss or something, but it's like they struggle with deciding whether or not to get everyone in the office coffee in the morning or just buy themselves coffee.
Right.
They struggle, like really specific. And then it's like, okay, what are some entry level tips that I can give this person? Because also social media is not therapy, right? So like, no one's expecting that you're providing therapy on social media, nor is it ethical. So regardless. And then it's like, okay, for that same person, how does the course also help them? Like, how does the course help them take a deeper dive? And then that story of all of that is what you're going to share on Instagram. Okay. And I think, and obviously I'm not sitting with you and seeing you create posts, but number one, Instagram has done a wonderful and horrible thing where it doesn't care as much about the aesthetic, because it's like gone way more toward reels. It's gone way more toward video and original content. And so you can create tons of time creating a carousel post in Canva, and that can get like 200 likes, or you can create a reel and that can get like 2,000.
Right.
So I think in a way it's great, because like the era of like highly curated feeds that are like beautiful rainbow colors and whatever.
Checkered box. I've never
checker. Yeah. I mean, I had that. Like, if you scroll down to the bottom of my feed, like you're seeing that. But Instagram is prioritizing video. And so the bad news is you have to make videos. The good news is it's once you get better at just filming yourself and making videos, it's easier.
Okay.
What do you think? What are you thinking about that? You're like, okay.
Well, I'm a talker. Like, either I'm talking.
Yeah.
Fine, let's do a thing. But reels take me for fucking ever to do. Like, to fake the bubbles, to have them pop up in like in a time lapse. Like not even like I've been watching yours since last week. I've been like paying attention to what you're doing versus relating to them, right? As a user versus a learner, and like even just like timing it out, so you're shortening the thing so that the bubble pops away so the next one does. Like, it's not that hard. I can do it. I do it in my own personal account pretty fucking easy, but somehow it takes so long to even like curate the idea of what I'm trying to fucking say so that people are relating and listening. I don't know. Like, it just feels like a lot.
I would say like, well, again, good news, bad news. Instagram's prioritizing more original content than trending reels. So having to make all the ones where you're like, point, like you don't necessarily have to do, right? So like you could just start with making talking head reels. It could just be like, are you a woman who struggles with the I'm using the same example, the transition from work to home? Here's one thing you can do about it. Done. But just start by like filming it, because I think rather than trying to make like perfectly curated reels every single day or like once a week, I would try to post like 3 reels a week that are not perfectly curated. And if that means you're just posting yourself talking and you keep them really short, like shorter the better, honestly, like, hey, this is one problem, this is one solution. Or, hey, one thing I noticed that a lot of people who struggle with perfectionism is this. And like you give one thing, that's better than not posting at all because it's going to take you 2 hours to make a trending reel.
And that's the thing. What happens, like, I truly feel like I'm a collaborator. Like, I can name all the jobs where I've talked in a meeting or like talked back and forth about an event that we're doing. And the thing is that I run and do all of it. Like, I get to get really creative once I talk to somebody about the thing. But when I'm by myself, the thoughts stop and I go, well, I'm just going to live my life instead. Fuck it. Like, and so it really, I'm learning, I know that about myself, but I'm learning that about myself, that like, it's very hard for me to be inspired by my own thoughts unless I'm talking back and forth. And then I get really giddy and excited and don't take other people's thoughts. I go, I know best. Hold on, let me do it. I can do it.
I do that too.
I am not confident or creative by myself. Like, I don't know what that, like, I bet it just takes practice, but
it takes practice. It takes practice. You got to just start. You got to just pick a goal. Like, I'm going to post 3 reels a week, no matter what. And then by the time you've posted 20, you're going to be like, I know how to do this so much faster.
Content schedule. Let's finish your thought. Sorry.
Okay. I definitely don't have a content schedule. Do you remember getting ready for this podcast this morning with me? You're like, where's the link? I'm like, I'll send it to you 5 minutes before we hop on. And
I loved it. I was like, as long as you're not waiting on me, I feel good. Great.
Can I tell you a secret? I can't believe when it's okay. So when you texted me, I have it in my Google Calendar, in my fucking whatever iCal. I have like 3 calendars, okay? And I still, when you texted me, was at Ross buying wreaths for my house. And I was like, fuck, I have to record a podcast in 45 minutes. And I'm like racing home. Like, I have a problem. So if you can imagine that's who I am, you can imagine that I don't use a content calendar. I'm a big believer. What?
And you're still posting. I feel like that you like rejected perfectionism. That's it right there. You know, like that's, you're like, we talked about.
I have perfectionism in like a way other twisted way. Like, I can make content that's not perfect. It's more like I struggle with like taking on too many things. Like, I'm like a good lazy perfectionist in a sense that like I don't mind if it's not perfect, but I do mind if I don't do it. I'm good at staying consistent. I'm just not always good at like my product being perfect. I have a lot of typos, for example. So I'll post every day, but there'll be typos.
I really love that. I like the social media. I'm fine with that. My own personal account on this is when it feels much harder to be that.
Yeah, but that's what people want. You know, like if you follow me, like if you've looked at my shit, like, you know, I don't wear makeup all the time. You know, I like have typos. Like the other day I had a typo, a huge, massive typo in my reel, you know, like, but I don't think it like makes people, I don't know. I mean, social media is innately social. People want you. They want you to be real.
Yeah.
You know, the creators we all like the most are not the ones who are like, you know.
They're not polished. They're truly not. Like,
usually not.
They're showing themselves. I think that's what makes me such an effective therapist is like, I actually am I want to be a porcelain doll in all other areas of my life. Like, I make fun of that with my clients. Like, you don't see it here, client, ha ha ha. But like, I don't share my vulnerability with my family. I very rarely. I don't fucking show any cracks. But as a therapist, I'll give you all the secrets about how flawed I am. I will give you all the things I've ever had. And that's what makes me an effective therapist, is because they relate and are human. But somehow it does not transfer into my real personal life.
You got to crack the fucking shell, dude. You got to do it. That's what social media is. That's how people build successful brands, is they're vulnerable online. So like that you're doing in the therapy room, the thing that makes you a really good therapist is going to be the thing that makes you a really good content creator as a therapist or as a teacher teaching your course.
Yeah.
But you have to do it. You got to crack the egg. Maybe like go to therapy a little bit and talk about it.
Probably.
That's
always the answer.
I know. It's always the answer. It's always the answer for me too. I'm just like, I probably need to go to therapy. Okay, so here's the other thing. I've heard you say a couple times that you're great on a team or with a partner, or the other thing is like you could outsource some of this. Like you could hire people to help you with some of this.
I would love to. Like, I mean, what we said last week was like, I said to you, I'll pay you. I'll pay you just to talk.
Not me.
But like, I am a collaborator. I want that.
Yeah.
So the videographer who's going to do the B-roll, she's actually like, hey, she took the course. So she's very passionate about other people. She wants to to her mom. She's like, she wants to give it out. She knows her people need this info.
Right.
Oh, you're the person. Like you're the person who's passionate about the message. If I can collaborate with you and like you hear the things and we start creating, that's great. And so we processed that and talked about it. But she's like, hey, but what do you actually want me to do? And I don't know what I actually want.
Okay, we need to talk about that part.
Yeah, like this.
Because I want you to leave this podcast today feeling like, okay, I have a little bit of a plan.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? Where are you getting stuck?
Okay, so we're planning on meeting every Monday. Every Monday at some sort of time, I don't know, and talk about like content, what I want to share, what's important. She took the course, so she's actually going to like review the course and figure out what nuggets can be little teasers that I can just use as content on social media, and just create kind of a map to move through that. And like, I don't even know what the metric goal is, what more followers at this point, because I'm not trying to sell my course quite yet. And then like, how do I even do that? I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so yes, the goal is definitely more followers. If you've kind of chosen to be on Instagram, like I know for me, like I built my following for an entire year before I tried to sell anything to anyone.
Which is fine with me at this point. I just need to fucking be doing something. It feels like.
Yeah, because people don't
pick myself out and like, I have a job, I'm a therapist. I don't need to do this other job. But I do. I want calling. I actually really want to do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell you want to do it. Like, so you build a following. I mean, that seems to me like it's step one is like, even if you're taking nuggets out of your course and putting them on social media, it's like you first need an audience who you are going to eventually sell to. But for right now, you need to find your people on the internet.
How did you do that? How did you get, somebody said you need 5,000 followers. I have 370 and it's been like that for a year and a half straight for sure. No more. No.
Okay. So first of all, you paid people to do ads for you. How did that work? Like, did you get any?
So the goal for that was email subscribers, and I have 450 email subscribers. I don't do shit with. I don't do anything with that. I don't know what, just I have emails.
Right. Okay, so ideally we want you to have way more than 450 email subscribers. Like that's great, but we want more. So the first thing is like where I would start with, rather than you have your course, you have your website, is like you're going to want more email people. So I would start with something that you're going to give away to people, a little guide or like, do you already have that?
I have, and it's fucking killer.
What is it?
Really like a 7-page packet about intentional living and like work through these questions, do these journal prompts,
amazing,
find this so you can unpack it. And so we ran
amazing
for that. We ran the ads for that for like 20 days and we got 450 email subscribers for that.
Oh, okay. So you only ran ads for 20 days and you got 450. Okay, that's great. I thought you meant you ran ads for like a year and got 450. No, in 20 days, if you ran it. So how much did you spend in ads in 20 days?
$1,000.
So you're basically paying $2 a subscriber. Okay, so ideally
which makes me so mad. I paid for that and now I own emails.
Right.
Anything with them.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. That part, like, okay. So you have a way to collect emails. So what like platform are you using for those emails and the free giveaway?
It was ConvertKit.
Okay, great. I use ConvertKit. I love ConvertKit. Okay, so and you ideally still have that, right?
Yeah, I stopped paying for it, but it's all like once my
it's already built.
Hired, and they were like, "Pay us," and I was like, "No."
Okay, so that's like in your bio on your Instagram, is that in the link?
Yes, it should be. It's on Linktree. Like I have a Linktree.
Yeah. Okay, so then your number one goal is to drive traffic to that.
Okay.
So like for however long it takes, let's say your goal is 5,000 followers, it's like up till 5,000 followers, you're driving traffic or driving people to download a freebie. And you already have ConvertKit set up. Like you could do one of those freebies every couple months. You know, it doesn't have to be a 7-page thing. It can literally be like a 5-minute video that you upload, or it can be 5 coping skills for perfectionism. Like it could be any download. But like, first of all, like somewhere in your link tree, you want that. So that's number 1. Number 2, like the best thing about social media is like, you're not going to have to pay $2 a subscriber, right? Like, cause like if you're going to build to, let's say 50,000 people, like you don't want to spend $100,000 on building a following that may or may not follow you.
Yeah.
You know, like that's going to, like this for me, that would be cost prohibitive. So, how much are you posting now?
None. I am sharing the podcast, right? Like it's just like collaborating, doing a thing. So the podcast is being advertised right now. And so it's just going on my feed. But in terms of actual content and creating stuff for my niche that I care about for my private practice, nothing.
Okay, so
like March.
What do you have the bandwidth for in terms of posting?
What a great question. I really appreciate that. I don't know the answer to it because I get really giddy and excited about like, okay, I'm going to do a thing, right? Like it's all the achieving things that we're doing. So I feel like my head is above water in motherhood right at this particular
today, because no one's sick at home today. Friggin' childcare. Like I send my son to preschool to get germs and for me to give them money.
Yeah, 100%. 100% that's real. Yep.
Yeah. But luckily you could make a reel during nap time if you get like a little
he sleeps
faster at it.
He sleeps 4 hours a day, 2-hour naps. He's fucking kills. Right. I do have
what? You could make 5 reels a day.
I could make a lot of reels if I needed to if I was focused enough about it. And so I just sit and look at other people's social media, and that's not helpful.
Me too. So realistically, obviously it's about what is sustainable for you to do. Like how you can make, you know, X number of stagnant posts a week, meaning like the ones that are just pictures or text, and X number of reels per week and X number of stories per week. For the next 6 months.
Stories are easiest for me. Some hate them.
Great. Stories are perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I need to make I want a goal. I have 4 reels a week, and like, can I just do like podcast advertising for?
Yeah, you don't have to have stagnant posts. What if you just did 3 reels a week and just did that, and then storied most days of the week, and no stagnant posts?
That sounds doable, except for that I'm still at the point of like, well, what do I tell them on my stupid reel?
So that's where I think, okay, point of homework number 1 is you sit down for an hour and you literally type out on your computer, brain dump, like, you know, what is the thing that your client struggles with at work? What do they struggle with at school? What do they struggle with if they're in their early 20s? What do they struggle with if they're in their 30s? What do they struggle with in motherhood, in marriage? Like you literally like turn on some freaking Taylor Swift or something. That would be my like brain tub music, or a TV show, right? It's a good place, and dump it out. And if you need to have a friend asking you those questions, like you're on podcast with Emily, right? Like have her sit down and say like, can we brainstorm this for an hour?
Yeah.
And like really just get it out there, you know, and like put it out into the universe. Like these are the things your client struggles with. Then every time, like ideally you're going to have 50 to 100 things, right? Yeah. So then when you go to make those reels, you make a reel about that. Okay. And the thing is like what you'll notice, and we talked about this the other day, is like when you go through any like person that's in a specific niche on Instagram, you'll notice that like they're making a lot of reels that are like, you'll start to notice that they're following kind of a formula, you know, it's like, and then you'll start to, like me, or there's a million other people that are, you know, like if you start to follow, like there's a lot of like Instagram content creator coaches out there. Like I love Brock Johnson. He's one, we'll tag him in the show notes. He like posts reels tutorials. I love Sit with Kelly McKenna. She has like a Reels membership where she'll send you 5 reel ideas a week for, I think it's like $30 a month. I'll tag her below and I'll just text you these. But like there's tons of people out there that will literally send you templates for this, not me, but like other people.
So there's this, there's this one influencer who I'm obsessed with at this point.
Yeah.
Here's Carrie Locker. She's a postpartum nurse who has 4 kids, and she has made an crazy Instagram following.
I think I follow her. Yeah.
She's fucking phenomenal. And I've just now watched her to be like, what is she doing? So what she does Sunday, she says, hey, this week we're going to be talking about what other uses there are for breast milk, and including like paths and eczema and stuff. And then I'm going to talk about like World Mental Health Day and like postpartum mental health. And then you just like know what's going to happen. She usually goes on her stories, and then she has some sort of content that's a tiny reel about it. Tiny, but then you really do have to watch her stories to actually get the information about it. And then every Friday she says, here's a box, ask me questions. And she spends the entire weekend answering postpartum and like baby rash diaper questions. Like, and that's how she like does. That's it. That's
Love
what that is. And like,
okay, so send me her info because we'll put that below too. But just do that.
I know.
Could you do that?
I want to. I just like.
You're afraid. I think you're afraid. I think you know what you need to do, but I think you're a little scared.
Here's the thing. I know that. I'm like, I want to follow that exact thing. That looks doable. That thing seems like a thing I can do. I now understand her template. And then I go, but what the fuck do people want to hear from me about? That's where I really do. I respond to clients really well. They have a problem. Great. Let's talk about it. Let's dig into it. And then I go, and I think if I just could have recorded that, I would have like 800 ideas, but I don't listen to myself. And and then I just like, I don't feel important enough. I feel like if somebody asks me a question, I feel very powerful at being able to guide through that. I do not feel important enough for my own ideas to come out and go, this might be useful. You know, like I just think that.
I'm going to ask you the question right now.
Okay.
I am a highly perfectionistic mom in my mid-30s that's struggling with all the things that you were telling me about. What are you going to teach me about next week on your Instagram?
Okay, the first thought was, I want to teach you about your nervous system. I want to teach you why this is an important problem.
Okay, fuck yeah. I want to learn about that. So like, yes, I do want to learn about why I feel like hyped up all the time.
Well, after that was, that's too serious too quick. Like I need her to like me before I tell her about why.
Stop. That's like noise. What's your second thought of things that you're going to teach me about next week? What else do I need to know?
Boundary setting and say no. Like talking about like why is it hard to say no and why it's important to say no.
Yeah. So those 2 topics are enough. If you just talked about that in the first week, that'd be enough. And then you do it again the next week. And my guess, Stassi, is you do it for 2 to 3 weeks and you'll be like, oh, easy.
I think it is easy. I think I don't know I think I just get like you and I talking and I'm like, yeah, I can share. And then you're like, yeah, I'm like, okay, great. I'll go do it. And then it's like the people pleaser in me. I want you to see me do it. You know, like there's something about it.
I'm going to see you do it. I follow you.
But like the person, like
you can text it to me. I don't care. Like send it to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, I don't know if you relate to this. I think most of like my ideal people do. Like when I was 16 at Jamba Juice, I would have like literally fallen on the sword for any employer to be like, I'm the best helper you ever have had ever. Let me just take, so I wouldn't do homework. I would ditch friends. I would do anything for somebody to like me and think I was useful. But I would take away all my own values for that, right? And so when it comes to Instagram, I actually think it's a very similar problem. If Kelly is watching me, I want her to know I'm a good girl and I did it. And I did it really great. But if I'm going to create a reel or just like chill with my kid on the floor or like rest because I'm tired because I have a kid, like I would rather do that and I fall on the sword and take away all my goals. Like I don't care about my own motivation. I care about other people liking it.
Right.
That makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And like, here's the good news, bad news. Social media is is validating of that because you will get positive feedback.
Yeah.
And if anything, you'll get more positive feedback because you'll have multiple people. You'll also get negative feedback because there are fucking trolls out there, man. I get them every single day. Yeah. But I mean, there's so much here, like, and so much of the stuff I struggle with. But one thing, I like voice memo back and forth with one of my best friends who also creates like, she's like, does mom content.
But like, I want to be
And
your best friend. So why do you have
you have Emily. But what was I going to say to this? When we both first were creating content, like when we, each of us had like 2 followers, okay? We used to say this thing where it was like, talk to her. Who is she? Makes me want to cry. Because it's like, for me, who's that person? That's the person who is struggling to build a practice, who is in student loans, who knows that they deserve a different life, but they're stuck at their agency job, right? And you need to talk to her. No one else's opinion matters.
Yeah.
Like, your goal of your content for you is like, you're talking to the mom that's sitting in the driveway in her business suit and then trying to like transition to being a toddler mom when she gets home. You're talking to the mom or the 26-year-old who's sitting at their desk and just wants their boss to notice the project that they just completed and that it's good. Like, you're talking to her. The rest of the noise doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you're the person, you're the guide who's saying, I get it. I get what it's like to be you. And so I think when we think about that person and creating that content for her, and really every single day when you get ready to film your shit, you know, it's like, who am I talking to? What does she need to hear today? Who could like, and it doesn't have to be an expert thing. It could just be like, I get it. I've been there. Like, any of that. And then like, it takes all of our ego shit out of it, or our imposter syndrome out of it, of just like, hey, who, like, Stassi, what does that woman, what does that girl, what does that person need to know from you? And then like, just talk to her. Just get on and be like, hey, I'm here for the woman who's struggling with this thing today. We've all been there, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, so what did you commit to? You committed to 3 reels a week or 4?
4.
Okay, 4. So let's just do it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
4 for 2 weeks,
Okay.
and then another 4 the following 2 weeks, and a story. So how often do you go on your stories?
I would do that every day. That doesn't faze me, but because I'm not posting anything, I don't go on my stories because it's like a dead account at this point.
Yeah, I get that.
So like, they don't care about my motherhood. They don't care that I'm getting groceries right now. They don't care unless
yes, they do.
They do if I'm giving them value. They don't care about me unless I'm giving them value, right? So like, I haven't been on my stories because I haven't been giving value, and so it's like all they're getting to know is like how hard it is to become a mom. Like they care about that if I'm like. I don't mind sharing personal stuff when I'm also providing value. I feel like it's useless for me to just not complain, but right, to be on there and be vulnerable when they're not also getting something out of it. That I don't know if that's real, but that's how I have felt in the last 9 months, being like, oh man, like, geez, hormones are fucking crazy. Like I don't particularly want to share that without adding something to the people who are wanting, they're here for mental health stuff. They're not here to talk about my story. So I give them windows sometimes, but when I can like theme it about my life in mental health, like where I'm like, this is 6 months ago, I was really struggling, and now I can wrap my head around why, not what's happening now. But I don't mind getting on stories every day if I'm
right. Okay, so I would say let's get on stories 4 times a week too.
Okay.
It could be at the same time, because like also, I mean, like, hot tip obviously is like, when somebody views your story, that counts as a view on your reels. So all those reels get shared to your story. So it's like, okay, you share your reel to the story. I just posted this reel about this thing. Here are some extra thoughts about it.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. And then what about live?
Oh, God. What would I do on live?
You'd share like a tip of the day or something. Hey, this is Stassi. Just wanted to share one tip.
Do I have tips?
I always think that before I go live. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this is a hard one for me too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I think what we should do is you go do these 2 weeks, and then let's talk again in 2 weeks and film part 2 of this episode and hear about how it went. And then so anyone listening to this episode is going to hear the second part at the same time.
Yeah, I was thinking that last week, being like, we should check in because I'm going to be doing stuff and see what happens. So ideally we're gaining followers, but like, putting up a reel is like, so putting up a reel with you did gain our podcast followers less than me.
Yeah.
Right. But like putting up a reel by myself, do I need hashtags? Do I need a thing? Like, do I need to like make it so that people are looking at my thing?
Oh, yeah. So let's just talk about tools. Okay.
Yeah.
So hashtags are like kind of, obviously we're filming this in whatever month it is, October of 2022. Things change all the time. At this current moment, the hashtag thing on Instagram is kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
What I've heard is that when you're just starting out posting reels, it can be helpful to help you, like for Instagram to categorize you. They've become less helpful than they were. But I would still do them.
Okay.
If I were you, I'd still do them. And I use a app called Smart Hash. So you like connect it to your Instagram and it tells you, it like starts to look at what hashtags are performing best for you on your reels.
Okay.
So that's number one. Number two is in the reels that you post, I want you to have a call to action, like something in the caption that's like if you look at my reels, for example, and you just go back, like you can literally copy my calls to action. They're like, post or like comment a heart if you agree, or tell me one thing that you're struggling with today in motherhood, because like you need engagement.
Yeah.
You know, or save this reel to remember this tip or that kind of thing. So like those two things, hashtags, and what did I just say?
Call to action.
Call to action. And I would say like, I would try to do a mix of the type of reel, like,
what do you need to say?
Do like a trending one. So like anyone you follow that you like, that you see a trending sound or like they're pointing, try to do one of those. Then try to just do one that's just you talking to the camera. And if you do ones that are just you talking to the camera, like make sure to save those because you can repost those like in 90 days or whatever.
What?
Like don't throw them away. Like if you look back at my feed, you're seeing some doubled up content,
Yeah. Cool.
And for your stories, one tip that I always hear is like your very first story of the day, make sure it has like a poll in it because it immediately creates engagement, you know?
What do you mean by
so like, hey, I'm here at Starbucks with my son. Oh my gosh, he just had a meltdown or whatever. And it's like, has your kid ever had a meltdown in Starbucks? Poll. Or like those poll stickers that are in, how like on stories you can put a sticker?
Yeah.
So there's one that says poll and POLL.
Poll, not
poll.
PLL. PO.
Oh no, poll POLE. Or no, shit. Now I'm getting sick. This is what I told you, typos. I have the dysgraphia thing.
Poll.
Like for realsies.
Not
yeah, like you're going to your polling place.
Yeah. I got
so you need a poll in it. And so in your first story,
I noticed in the last 24 hours you can poll now in reels.
Yeah, you can poll in reels. So do that. Like anything that's going to create more engagement on your page, do that. So you can add polls, you can add stickers, you can do an ask me anything questions. Yeah. So obviously like collaborative reels, like the one we did together, do help your following. So if you have friends who so Emily or your podcast page or whatever, like you guys could do a collaborative reel together. We just did one together. So now you know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Great.
You do know how to do it. It's going to get easier. I promise you. Okay. So you're going to do this for 2 weeks and then we're going to talk in 2 weeks.
Now we're going to revisit this.
Do you have any other questions about this?
Let me look through. Okay.
Are you at the... Oh, I had a question for you. Sorry.
Yeah,
I interrupted you.
No, what's the question?
Are you at the point where... Because you've said that you have thought about hiring someone to help you. Are you at the point where you want to hire someone to help you or you want to go and give it a shot on your own?
I mean, I kind of both. That's literally I'm looking at, like, I wrote...
The question, yeah.
What do they do? How are they costing? What's happening? Because, like, I would love to talk and go, here you go, edit this reel, make it look cute, I'll post it. Like that, like would be wonderful. Yeah. And I don't know if it's worth the money. Is it worth it?
Okay. So, I'll tell you. So when from 0 until, I don't know, 15,000 or something, I didn't have anyone helping me on my Instagram. And I actually think that was a really good thing.
Okay.
Because ideally, Instagram you can do on your own. And my guess is like you're fairly tech savvy, like enough to make reels and stuff. So, and what people come to your page for is you. And so when I tell people to outsource stuff on Instagram, I'll tell them like the stagnant posts, like the Canva posts you could outsource on Instagram. I personally, again, I don't, because like I'm a little bit of a control freak. So I have a team now, but they don't make Instagram content for me. So, and actually at this current moment, they also don't even post anything for me. They manage a lot of the background noise of my website and helping me with my branding and my courses and setting up courses. And like we could talk about all of that in another episode too. But they don't do the Instagram side for me. And that's just like my personal preference. Like I like creating content. That's the side I like managing on my own. But if you felt like I have no idea how to run Instagram, then, and some people listening to
I just sometimes think it's not worth my time. But I also find that my voice is really unique. It's really hard to be emulated. I outsourced a blog like 3 times to the website, and I had to redo the whole fucking thing because one, it was inaccurate. Like there was facts things that were unethical and not right. And 2, like I just have a voice that is very hard to emulate, and I can do it very quickly. Yeah. And so me editing someone else's voice was much more cumbersome than actually just doing it. And so I would imagine,
I find that to be true too for me. So like if you were going to outsource something, first of all, like it's a matter of like, is that where you want to spend your money? So like for me, where I like to spend my money is like, how do I open the back end of a course? Like, how do I run the back end of a course? Okay. You want to have this free download thing that they can download, and then it collects their email address and it stores their email address somewhere. That's the kind of stuff I tend to outsource to my team. But actually creating Instagram content, like most of these platforms are designed so that you know how to do it. So only recently at like 30 something have I gotten to the point where I'm like, I need more help on managing my actual Instagram. And that's because I have so many messages or comments and DMs. And I like to respond to those myself, and like, but I can't respond to everything. So that's where I use some help. And then what was the other thing? What I'm starting to do is repurpose content onto other platforms. So to take things what I've posted on YouTube and posting them on Twitter and TikTok and, not on YouTube, on Instagram, and moving them over to other platforms. So like taking things that I've already filmed. So I would say like, I don't know that I would spend the money on investing and having somebody else do it for you as much as I might like suggest boosting some of your posts. And like, you know how on Instagram, like you could spend $30 to boost a post if you wanted to. But even then, I would always tell people with boosted content is like, it's worth it if the content is good. Like if you create a killer reel
first, cool.
Yeah, or like a post that you're like, hell yeah, this is what I want to say to people. Yeah. Then spend $20, $30 boosting it. But if it's like content that you don't love, then like it's not worth it.
Right, totally.
So, so that's what I would say. I would only outsource stagnant posts. And the other thing I would say is like, let's say you film 40 reels over the next few months and they're awesome. Then you might pay somebody to look at those 40 reels and make stagnant posts in Canva for you based on your content, which is basically a copy and paste job. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question. Did you have other questions about that?
And like the person I'm meeting with right on Mondays, my hope is like there's a little bit of this that I'm able to just like collaborate with, understand, and just go like, this is what I want. This is what I said. I want some captions on it that are cutesy.
Yeah.
Do that for me. And kind of outsource a bit if needed, but it really is hard. I do think reels take
practice.
Time. They take time. Like literally it takes me like an hour and a half to like, and that's probably perfectionism involved, but like it takes me like an hour and a half to finally post a reel. Like it takes a long time for me.
I'll tell you at this point, I could make in an hour and a half, 20 reels. Because you just get faster at it. But when I first started, it would take me an hour and a half to make one.
Yeah. And then I get like 8 likes and it's like fucking not worth it, you know?
Yeah, it's like, fuck this. Yeah.
So,
And like
you know,
in the beginning, like you just gotta like pump them out. Like they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be the most whatever. You know, it's like you want to just like if you look at some of my reels, like I don't look great in all of them. You know? And like, okay, so you're sitting at your desk right now. You have makeup on. Your hair looks great. Like not that it ever needs to on reels, but like you have a great background. So it's like even right now, you could just film yourself like, hey, here's 3 things to do when you're feeling overstimulated at work. Hey, here's one thing to say to your boss in order to set a boundary. Hey, here, you know, like you could film like 5 things right now. And the thing you could outsource is the person you're meeting with on Monday. You could have her edit all of those into reels.
Yeah.
But the part you can't outsource is you.
Totally.
All right. So what's the plan? You give me the summary and then we're going to sign off.
Yeah. So we are meeting in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Then I will have at least 8 reels. I'll have done at least 8 stories.
You will have met with the person you're meeting with on Monday who's going to pull some clips out of your course and make them into reels, right?
We're going to have some sort of content plan-ish or collaboration that I know what direction I'm kind of going.
Right.
And ideally, I have more followers by the time we're done here. Right now, I can tell you exactly how many we have so that we...
Yeah, let's mark it.
Let's see. So I have... Oh, that's my own personal account. That's not helpful. Anyone who's listening now can follow me on Evergreen Therapy PDX. Watch what happens and comment so that I'm not alone by myself. And I have 386 followers right now.
What's your profile picture right now?
It is a picture of me with a bright orange background. Can you see it? There it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I knew that. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, and that you're gonna make sure your Convert Kit is set up so that your people can download your guide.
Yeah, good point. Great.
If you're gonna get a bunch of new followers, they need something to. So make sure your link tree is working.
Okay. I did that yesterday weirdly. I was on Linktree for like the first time in a year. Who goes on Linktree? Your personal Linktree account? I don't know. I did
too. I'm trying to switch out of my Linktree right now, but I'm just like I love Linktree, but I'm trying to. Anyway, long story.
I was looking at your Linktree actually.
For another episode. There's like benefits to Linktree in that it's easy to use. There's detriments in that it's not. You're missing out a lot of search engine optimization because they're clicking. So there's like a block in it, you know. But anyway, I'm still using it, so that's my own growth. All right, I can't wait. We're going to do it in 2 weeks, and then you'll be able to listen to the next episode soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution. Welcome back to Ask Kelly Anything. We have a really good question today that I get all the time. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Hey, Kelly. I'm so excited for your podcast. I have a quick question for you. I am wondering, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in California, and I just opened my own practice. And I'm curious, how do you reach out to doctors to get referrals? I'm feeling a little nervous about it. I'm not sure how to do it, but I definitely want to form those relationships. So I was curious what your advice was.
All right. This is a good question. So I get asked this question all the time, and I thought this would be a good one to answer on the podcast. So this person is asking, how do you reach out to doctors? Where do you get started? She's feeling a little apprehensive or nervous about reaching out, but knows she wants to form those relationships. So here's what I would say. You know, one of the first steps to getting referrals from doctors is actually picking up the phone. Now, I think a lot of times we get scared and we don't necessarily want to reach out to doctors, but they can be really good referral sources for our private practice. So the first step I want you to do is I want you to sit down at your desk and I want you to make a list of the other doctors in your community who might have access to your ideal client. So for example, if you see kids, then that's obviously going to be pediatricians. If you see women, then maybe OBGYNs and internal medicine doctors or women's health clinics. So I want you to think first strategically, who do you want to reach out to? Then I want you to realize it's a numbers game. Doctors are busy, and a lot of times they don't need referrals from you. And so getting in the door of a doctor's office is really the hardest first step. And a lot of times people will think like, maybe I'll just send, a ton of letters to doctor's offices. And here's the thing, they don't get those letters. And I'll tell you, as somebody, I'm married to a psychiatrist, I could tell you that marketing letters typically don't cross their desks, right? So a lot of times an administrator will open them, we'll see that they're just kind of a cold marketing letter, and we'll toss them, to be honest with you. So I would not waste your money on sending out a bunch of pamphlets to doctors' offices. They get tons every day, not just from therapists, but from other specialties, from drug companies. So don't bother sending them. Really, the key to getting into doctor's offices is in-person meetings. Now, a lot of that has changed since telehealth. Sometimes doctors prefer doing Zoom meetings, but typically the way I encourage you to do it is to pick up the phone and you're going to do this. So first, you have that list in front of you, and let's say you identify 10 doctor's offices. If you identify 10 doctor's offices in your community that you want to get in touch with, I'm going to bet that you are able to book meetings with one or two of those offices. So really, a lot of times I'll get people calling me and they'll say, I called the doctor's office, they didn't want to let me in, or they didn't want to book a meeting and they feel discouraged and they don't. I want you to think about it in a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every 9 no's, you might get 1 yes. So you're going to call that doctor's office, and I'm going to give you a little background first. A lot of doctor's offices have drug reps that come in and bring lunch for their staff. It's kind of the easiest way for them to meet with people. Someone brings in lunch for them and their staff, and they meet with them, talk for them for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then they leave. That's very, very typical. Drug companies have a lot of rules and regulations around how they do this, but it's pretty typical still nowadays that people come in and bring lunch. So a lot of times I'll tell therapists, the key to meeting with doctor's offices is actually to bring in lunch. And people will give me a little pushback and say, either I can't afford to bring in a doctor's lunch, or why do I have to bring it in for the whole staff? Or, this seems like bribing, and the reality is this is like how the door opens, and this is how other people are getting that door open. And so often doctor's offices have a kind of a set staff meeting each week that they do this with. It's a set procedure. It's a benefit to their employees that they're bringing in lunch. And it's not because you're trying to bribe them, right? Most doctors can afford to buy their staff lunch if they want to. It's more a courtesy that you're acknowledging that you're going to bring in lunch for the whole office, because it takes a whole office for a doctor's office to run, right? It's not just the doctor. So what you're going to do when you first call up that doctor's office, you're going to say, "Hi, my name is Kelly Stevens. I have an office right down the street from Dr. So-and-so." I usually say that phrase, right down the street, even if I'm a few miles away, right? Because I'm trying to signify to that person, I'm in your community. And I will say, I have a lot of clients that struggle with X, and that's usually something the doctor sees. But I'm always looking for doctors to refer to that want to collaborate on care, that are really interested in providing their clients with the highest standards of care. And I heard really great things about Dr. X. I'm wondering if it would be possible for me to bring in lunch for your whole office one day and just stay for 10 or 15 minutes, hear about the doctor's practice, and learn about what types of clients you would like me to refer to you. Now, if you kind of look at what I just said, you're offering a few things. You're offering to bring in lunch for the whole office. You're offering to keep it short, right? And you're also saying to them, I have referrals that I want to send to you. Those really are the 3 keys to getting meetings with doctor's offices, and that's where I would start. So this is a long answer to a short question, but the key is being really personal and is making sure that you're reaching out and offering to support their whole office. From the moment you arrive at that doctor's office, I want you to be polite and friendly to everyone you meet, not just the doctor. I hope this helps, and thank you so much for your question. If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelly Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now and make sure to write it down. Here it is, 805 8243 8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.